Welcome back to The Shifted Ledger, the podcast where we break down complex topics.
Glad to be here again.
So, I want you to imagine a scenario for a second. You go in for a routine checkup, right?
Good.
And the exact same AI algorithm that is reading your EKG is simultaneously recalculating your insurance premiums.
Right.
And it's also executing these micro trades on Wall Street to hedge your hospital's financial risk.
Which sounds completely made up.
Exactly. It sounds like a sci-fi thought experiment, but this
Yeah.
isn't sci-fi. The systems keeping us alive and the systems keeping us solvent have quietly merged.
Yeah, they really have.
So today, we are framing this entire discussion around that very phenomenon. The episode is titled Healthcare to Finance, the AI takeover you didn't see coming.
It's a massive shift.
It is. And before we get into the mechanics of, how this is even possible, I have to point out the digital backdrop you've set up for today's discussion.
Oh, yeah, you like it?
It's amazing. For those of you listening, there is a massive, visually arresting split screen going on behind my co-host.
I wanted something that really captured the scale of this.
Well, it works. On the left side, there's this pulsating, incredibly intricate neural network that just continuously morphs into these cascading high-frequency stock tickers.
Yep.
And then on the right side, you have these steady, rhythmic EKG lines that are literally hardwiring themselves into financial ledgers. It is mesmerizing.
Well, I really wanted a visual representation that captures the sheer scale of the convergence we are unpacking today.
All right?
Because we are looking at a complete structural rewiring of the two most critical global infrastructures.
Which we usually think of as totally separate things, right? Health and wealth.
Exactly. We tend to think of our physical health and our financial wealth as completely separate domains. I mean, your doctor doesn't manage your 401k,
No, definitely not.
and your broker doesn't diagnose your cholesterol. But at the data level, those silos are collapsing entirely.
And the connective tissue between those collapsing silos is artificial intelligence.
Absolutely.
And I want to be clear here, not the AI we were all playing around with a few years ago.
Oh, no, not at all.
Right, because the capital flooding the market right now is just breathtaking. It proves we are in a completely different era of technology.
We're looking at $124.3 billion in global AI equity funding in 2024 alone.
That is just an insane number.
It's an infrastructure race, essentially.
Yeah.
And the adoption curve is practically vertical right now.
Yeah, the stats bear that out. By late 2025, 88% of organizations reported using AI in at least one business function.
Which is up from, what, 55% in just 2023?
Exactly. But there's one statistic from the research that absolutely floored me.
Which one?
5.48 European businesses adopt AI in the time it takes you to read a short introduction.
Wow. Yeah, it is a staggering metric. But we really have to look closely at what that adoption actually entails.
Right, because it's not just better autocorrect.
Exactly. We aren't just talking about companies buying a better predictive text engine for their customer service emails.
So what is it then?
The velocity we're seeing is driven by a fundamental shift from experimental generative AI to what the industry calls agentic AI.
Agentic, meaning it has agency.
Precisely.
So it's not just sitting there waiting for a prompt from a human.
Exactly. To understand the difference, think of generative AI as a brilliant but passive intern.
Okay.
You ask it to write a report, it writes the report, and then it stops. It just waits for your next command.
Like a really smart typewriter.
Right. Agentic AI, on the other hand, operates as an autonomous virtual coworker.
Wow.
It's given a high-level goal, and it has the capability to plan, execute, and refine multi-step workflows.
Even across an organization's older legacy environment.
Yes, across all of it. It doesn't just generate text. It actually takes actions.
Okay, make that tangible for me. What does that look like inside an actual company? Because most large companies I know are still running on software built when dial-up internet was a thing.
And that is exactly where agentic AI shines. Imagine a traditional corporate workflow for, say, processing a complex customer grievance.
Okay, so someone complains and wants a refund.
Right. You have a billing department, a compliance department, and a customer support team.
All using different software, probably?
Historically, yes. They are all using completely disconnected legacy software systems from the 1990s.
Sounds like a nightmare.
It is.
Yeah.
A human would have to read an email, open a billing software, copy an invoice number, open a compliance manual.
Check the rules, open the payment gateway, process the refund. It takes forever.
Exactly. But an agentic AI model sits on top of all those legacy systems like an orchestrator.
Okay.
It reads the unstructured data from the complaint, independently cross-references it with the compliance database, securely accesses the billing system to authorize the refund.
And issues the communication.
Yes, all without a single human clicking a button.
So it's not replacing the old 1990s database, it's just becoming the invisible hands typing on the keyboard.
That's a great way to put it.
That explains the massive capital investment. It's like laying down the Transcontinental Railroad, you know?
Exactly. The companies that build this infrastructure first are going to own the tracks of future commerce.
But I have to push back a little here.
Okay, go ahead.
Are these organizations actually ready for this level of autonomy, or is this just massive industry-wide FOMO?
It's a fair question.
I mean, are executives just seeing their competitors drop $10 million on an AI initiative and thinking, well, we better buy one too, or the board will fire us?
It is undeniably a potent mix of both fear and necessity. The FOMO element is real.
Right.
The Mercer study we reviewed notes that 54% of business leaders believe they won't remain competitive beyond 2030 without adopting AI at scale.
That's a huge number.
But the readiness is a forced adaptation. The competitive landscape has shifted dramatically in just the last 18 months. Well, in 2023, market power was defined by who had the biggest, most expensive proprietary AI model.
Like an arms race of raw computing power.
Exactly. Today, market power is defined by the return on investment achieved through low-cost, high-impact deployment.
Meaning, you don't need to invent the AI, you just need to be the smartest at using it.
That's it exactly.
Give me an example of that.
Okay, if a mid-sized regional logistics firm can use an off-the-shelf, open-source agentic AI,
Like a free one.
yes, to dynamically reroute their shipping fleets based on real-time weather patterns and microscopic supply chain bottlenecks,
Okay.
they will instantly outcompete a massive legacy firm that relies on a room full of human dispatchers.
Because it's just faster and cheaper.
The cost of intelligence has plummeted, which means the penalty for not using it is obsolescence. The window to adapt is incredibly tight.
Adapt or die by 2030. That is less than a decade to completely rewrite how your entire workforce operates.
It's moving incredibly fast.
And if we want to understand how a transition of this magnitude actually plays out, we can't just look at hypotheticals.
No, we have to look at the real world.
We have to look at the industry that beta tested these autonomous algorithms long before anyone else. The environment where AI cut its teeth under the highest stakes possible.
You were talking about Wall Street.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The financial sector. Because if we want to know what happens to healthcare in 5 years, we have to look at what happened to finance over the last 10.
That's the perfect parallel.
Right now, over 60% of U.S. equity trades are entirely algorithmic.
Which is just a wild statistic.
We are talking about massive institutions handing the keys to billions of dollars over to machines, and the numbers are almost hard to believe.
Oh, they're staggering.
Renaissance Technologies Medallion Fund hitting 66% annual returns using AI. Compare that to the S&P 500's historical average of around 10%.
It's a completely different league.
And you have JP Morgan's LOXM system lowering their trading execution costs by 20%.
Huge savings.
And then BlackRock's Aladdin system, which essentially acts as the central nervous system for a massive chunk of global assets. That system actually foresaw the 2020 market crash.
And to understand how they achieve those returns, we have to get under the hood.
Let's do it.
We are no longer talking about simple, rule-based quantitative trading.
What do you mean by rule-based?
Well, in the early days of algorithmic trading, a human programmer would write an explicit rule. Like if the stock drops 5% in 10 minutes, execute a buy order.
Okay, so very linear logic.
Exactly. What Renaissance, JP Morgan, and BlackRock are utilizing relies on deep reinforcement learning.
Okay, stop there. Break that down for us.
Sure.
Because when you say reinforcement learning, I picture a rat in a maze getting a piece of cheese when it finds the exit.
Right.
How does that translate to a live trading environment with billions of dollars on the line?
The rat in the maze is actually a perfect foundational analogy.
Really?
Yes. In deep reinforcement learning, or DRL, the AI is the agent and the market is the maze. But there are absolutely zero human-written rules telling the agent how to navigate the maze.
Wait, none.
None. The developers place the agent in an incredibly complex historical simulation of the financial markets.
Like a massive video game of the stock market.
Exactly. They give the agent a single overarching goal, which we call a reward function.
What's the goal?
It's typically to maximize portfolio returns while minimizing risk over a specific time horizon.
So it's just dropped into a sandbox and told, make money. How does it know what a stock even is?
It doesn't. Not initially.
It just guesses.
It learns entirely by trial and error, executing millions of simulated trades per second.
Millions. Wow.
At first, it makes random decisions and loses simulated money, resulting in a mathematical penalty.
A shock to the rat.
Exactly. But occasionally, it makes a trade that yields a profit, resulting in a mathematical reward. The cheese. And because it can do this millions of times a second. Yes. And because it's utilizing deep neural networks, these layers of artificial neurons that can identify incredibly subtle patterns, it begins to associate certain market conditions with profitable actions.
That makes sense.
Over millions of iterations, it develops trading strategies that are so complex, so nonlinear, that human analysts often cannot reverse engineer them.
So it's doing things we don't even understand.
Right. It discovers hidden arbitrage opportunities that only exist for microseconds. Opportunities completely invisible to the human eye.
But the market isn't just a closed loop of numbers, right?
No, it's very messy.
Stocks move because a CEO gets fired, or a cargo ship gets stuck in a canal, or a politician tweets something inflammatory.
Exactly.
How does a reinforcement learning agent factor in the real chaotic world?
This is where the architecture becomes multimodal. They integrate natural language processing, or NLP, directly into the data stream.
Okay, NLP.
NLP allows the AI to ingest and understand human text. These models are constantly reading global news headlines, financial earnings reports, and even the fire hose of social media sentiment in real time.
Wait, so it's literally reading tweets?
Yeah.
That's wild.
If a prominent CEO tweets a controversial statement, the NLP model parses the text, instantly gauges the severity of the negative sentiment, and quantifies it.
It gives the tweet a score.
Exactly. It then feeds that sentiment score directly into the reinforcement learning agent's environment.
And the agent reacts.
Yes. The agent, having learned from historical simulations that this specific type of negative sentiment correlates with a sudden drop in share price, executes a massive short position.
It bets against the company.
All of this happens in milliseconds, long before human traders have even finished reading the tweet, let alone processed its implications.
That speed is terrifying. It's a completely different game.
It really is.
But it's not just about wealthy hedge funds extracting alpha from the market, right?
No, it affects all of us.
Because this exact same technological leap is fundamentally changing consumer finance, specifically in how we calculate credit risk.
Yes, absolutely.
We've all grown up with the FICO score. It's this rigid, deeply entrenched system where a 3-digit number dictates whether you can buy a house or get a loan.
A very flawed system, honestly.
Yeah, right. But the sources highlight companies like Upstart, which used AI to approve 27% more borrowers while simultaneously lowering their default rates by 75%.
That's the real breakthrough.
That sounds like magic, because if you are approving more people, you should inherently be taking on more risk. How do you approve more and default less?
You achieve that by realizing that the traditional credit scoring model is an incredibly blunt instrument.
How so?
A FICO score looks at a very narrow set of variables: your payment history, your credit utilization ratio, and the length of your credit history.
Just a few data points.
Right. It is a linear model that assumes past behavior in a narrow context, perfectly predicts future behavior.
Which we know isn't true.
Exactly. AI models, specifically ensemble machine learning techniques like XGBoost, throw that linear assumption out the window.
Okay, XGBoost. I've seen that term floating around. What is an ensemble machine learning technique?
Think of it like a medical diagnosis.
Yeah.
If you go to one doctor, you get one opinion based on their specific experience.
Right.
That is a single decision tree. If you go to a board of 1,000 doctors and they all vote on your diagnosis, the collective decision is far more accurate.
That makes a lot of sense.
That is ensemble learning. XGBoost, which stands for extreme gradient boosting, takes thousands of these weak decision trees and combines them.
Wow, okay.
And crucially, it trains them sequentially. Each new tree specifically focuses on correcting the errors made by the previous trees.
So it's constantly refining its own blind spots.
Exactly.
What kind of data is this board of 1,000 digital doctors actually looking at?
They are looking at thousands of non-traditional alternative data points that the traditional credit bureaus ignore. They look at your rent payment consistency, your utility bills, your educational background, your employment trajectory, even how you interact with a web page.
Seriously, how I scroll.
Yes. And this is where the magic you mentioned happens. The XGBoost model can find nonlinear correlations that humans would completely miss.
Give me an example of a nonlinear correlation.
Well, a linear correlation is simple. High income equals low risk.
Sure.
A nonlinear correlation is much more nuanced. The AI might discover that people who pay their internet bill on a Tuesday have a specific degree from a community college and have moved addresses exactly twice in 5 years are statistically highly reliable borrowers.
Even if they have no credit card history.
Exactly. Even if they have absolutely zero formal credit history.
That's incredible.
By mapping these incredibly complex multidimensional relationships, the AI can confidently lend money to credit-invisible people that the traditional banking system would automatically reject.
Because it sees the whole picture.
Right. And simultaneously, it accurately identifies hidden risks in people the traditional system might blindly approve just because they have an old credit card.
It's essentially building a high-definition 3D model of a person's financial reliability instead of looking at a blurry 2D photograph.
That's a perfect analogy.
And if AI is that good at spotting reliable patterns, it must be equally good at spotting anomalies.
Oh, definitely.
Because traditional rule-based fraud detection is famously terrible. We've all had the experience of traveling to a different state, trying to buy a coffee, and having our card declined because we broke some rigid geographic rule hard-coded into a bank server.
Exactly. Traditional fraud systems generate a massive avalanche of false positives.
Which is so annoying for the customer.
It ruins the customer experience, and it costs banks billions in administrative overhead. AI anomaly detection takes a completely different approach using unsupervised learning techniques.
Specifically architectures like autoencoders and isolation forests, right?
Yes, those are the main ones.
Okay, let's break that down. Unsupervised learning, meaning unlike the reinforcement learning agent, there's no reward, and unlike a traditional model, no one is telling it what fraud actually looks like.
That is correct. In unsupervised learning, the AI is just given massive amounts of raw, unlabeled data.
Okay.
Its only job is to figure out the underlying structure of that data. Let's look at an isolation forest first.
How did that work?
Think about trying to find the odd person out in a massive stadium crowd.
Like finding Waldo.
Sort of. If 99% of the crowd is wearing blue shirts and one person is wearing a neon green shirt, it takes very few logical steps, or splits, to isolate that one person.
Right, they stand out immediately.
Normal transactions are clustered tightly together. Fraudulent transactions are mathematically isolated. The AI doesn't need to know what the fraud is. It just knows that this specific transaction required incredibly few steps to separate from your normal behavioral cluster.
That makes total sense. And an autoencoder, how does that work?
An autoencoder is fascinating. It is a neural network designed to compress data down to its absolute core essence and then reconstruct it.
Like zipping a file.
Kind of. Imagine I ask you to memorize an incredibly detailed painting in 10 seconds and then paint a replica from memory.
I would do a terrible job.
Well, if it's a painting of a normal house, you'll probably get the core details right.
Fair.
But if it's a surrealist painting with melting clocks and floating apples, your replica will be full of errors.
Because it breaks the normal rules.
Exactly. The autoencoder does this with your transaction history. It compresses your baseline behavior into a latent space, which is like a bottleneck, and then decompresses it.
Okay, I'm following.
When a new transaction comes in, it tries to run it through that same compression-decompression cycle. If the transaction is normal, it reconstructs it perfectly.
And if it's fraud?
If the transaction is fraudulent, the reconstruction error is massive. The system flags that high error rate and blocks the transaction instantly.
And the scale of this is hard to comprehend. We are talking about MasterCard blocking over $20 billion in fraud yearly with this real-time scoring.
It's incredibly effective.
PayPal used these techniques to reduce their false positives by 50%. HSBC cut their false anti-money laundering alerts by 60%.
It saves so much time and money.
They are even using behavioral biometrics now.
Yeah.
The AI isn't just looking at what you buy. It's looking at your typing speed, the angle at which you hold your phone, and the microscopic movements of your mouse.
Just to detect if a fraudster has taken over your session.
It's mind-blowing, but listening to all of this, a very critical question comes to mind.
What's that?
If every major bank, every massive hedge fund, and every credit card company is armed with these super smart, self-learning, XG-boosting, NLP-reading, autonomous algorithms,
Right.
doesn't the entire financial market just become a shadow war of algorithms? Does anyone actually have a human edge anymore?
That is the defining question of modern finance.
Oh.
You are describing a scenario where the market reaches a state of absolute algorithmic equilibrium.
Which sounds kind of dystopian.
Well, if everyone's AI is perfectly rational, analyzing the exact same data and executing at speeds faster than human comprehension, volatility could theoretically vanish entirely.
The market just stops moving.
The market would become a perfectly flat line of efficient pricing.
Hmm.
Or conversely, we could see catastrophic flash crashes
Hmm.
where competing algorithms trigger cascading, unstoppable sell-offs based on a single misinterpreted data point.
That's terrifying.
To directly answer your question, though,
Yeah.
the human edge in finance has completely shifted. It is no longer about execution.
You can't beat the machine.
You cannot outtrade a machine.
Yeah.
The edge is now entirely in model governance.
Model governance. So the edge belongs to the architect, not the pilot.
Precisely. The human advantage lies in who can design the most robust training environments.
Right.
Who has the highest quality, most unique proprietary data to feed the model. And most importantly, who can best translate complex, abstract macroeconomic theories into the mathematical reward functions that guide the AI.
Wow. Okay.
Finance, at its very core, is largely about the management of numerical risk. Wall Street has spent the last decade perfecting the mathematics of risk prediction.
Okay, so Wall Street has built the ultimate risk prediction engine. But what happens when you take these massive, hyper-efficient data crunching models and point them at something infinitely more complex than a stock price?
That's exactly where we're heading.
What happens when you apply that exact same mathematical rigor to biological risk?
That is the pivot point. When you transition from predicting financial insolvency to predicting cellular mutation, you cross the threshold into the healthcare revolution.
So if Wall Street is the testing ground, what happens when those algorithms graduate to the clinic?
Everything changes.
Let's talk about generative AI in medicine, specifically synthetic data and the push for precision medicine.
This is a huge area.
For the last century, medicine has been fundamentally a one-size-fits-all endeavor. You get a migraine, you take the exact same pill at the exact same dosage as the person next to you.
Despite having completely different genetics.
Exactly. The holy grail now is personalized medicine, tailoring the exact molecule and dosage to your unique biological profile.
Right.
But there is a massive, seemingly insurmountable hurdle to training an AI to do this, which is data privacy and data scarcity.
It's the biggest bottleneck.
Because we can't just dump millions of raw, unredacted patient medical records onto a public server to train an algorithm.
We absolutely cannot, and for good reason. Health data is protected by strict regulatory frameworks like HIPAA in the US and GDPR in Europe.
So how do we train the models?
Well, here's the paradox. To train a deep neural network to recognize the incredibly subtle, multivariable genetic markers of a rare disease, you need millions upon millions of longitudinal data points.
And if it's a rare disease, you don't have that.
Exactly. If you only have 50 patients with a rare condition, the AI cannot learn.
So what's the solution?
This is where the healthcare sector borrowed a concept from generative AI and adapted it brilliantly. They are using generative adversarial networks, or GANs, and variational autoencoders, VAEs, to create synthetic patient data.
Wait, synthetic data. So for anyone listening who might be confused, we aren't just blurring out names and social security numbers on existing medical records. You are saying the AI is inventing fake patients.
That is exactly what it is doing. It is generating statistically realistic, mathematically perfect, but completely synthetic patients.
That's wild.
Let's break down how a GAN actually works, because the mechanism is fascinating. A generative adversarial network essentially consists of two separate neural networks locked in a perpetual mathematical game of cat and mouse.
Like an art forger and a detective.
Exactly like an art forger and a detective. One network is called the generator.
The forger.
Right. Its job is to look at a small sample of real anonymized medical data and try to create a brand new fake medical record from scratch.
And the other one.
The second network is called the discriminator, the detective. Its job is to look at the fake record and compare it to the real data, trying to guess if the record is real or synthetic.
So they are actively fighting each other.
Yes. In the first round, the generator's fake patient is terrible. The blood pressure doesn't match the age, the lab results make no biological sense.
The detective easily catches it.
The discriminator easily catches the forgery, but the generator learns from that failure. It tweaks its parameters, it tries again, and again.
Millions of times, I bet.
Millions of times. Eventually, the generator becomes so incredibly skilled at capturing the deep, complex biological correlations of the real data that the discriminator can no longer tell the difference.
And the result of that cat and mouse game.
The result is a massive data set of synthetic patients that perfectly mirrors the statistical reality of human biology, but contains absolutely zero actual information from any real human being.
That is brilliant.
You can generate 1 million synthetic patients with a rare genetic marker and train your predictive models on them, completely bypassing the privacy hurdles because the data is anonymized at the structural mathematical level.
It is a perfect digital sandbox. It solves the privacy bottleneck entirely.
It really does.
Let's look at the specific tools mentioned in our sources, because the acronyms alone show how specialized this field is becoming.
Oh, there are a lot of acronyms.
There's a model called GANET, Generative Adversarial Nets for Individualized Treatment Effect.
GANET is a profound shift from predictive medicine to prescriptive medicine.
What's the difference?
It is designed to simulate counterfactuals. One of the greatest challenges in clinical medicine is that you can only ever give a patient one treatment pathway at a time.
Right, you make a choice and hope it works.
If a patient comes in with an aggressive tumor, you decide to give them drug X. You monitor them, and hopefully they recover.
Right.
But you will never, ever know for sure what would have happened if you gave them drug Y instead. You cannot observe the counterfactual reality.
Because you can't rewind time and try the other drug.
Exactly. But GANET uses synthetic generation to simulate those alternate realities mathematically.
Oh, wow.
It ingests the patient's specific biomarker profile, looks at the synthetic data landscape, and asks the mathematical question, what if this specific, unique patient received drug Y?
And it gives you an answer.
It then generates a highly probable, fully detailed clinical outcome based on their profile.
It's like we're giving physicians a way to run 1,000 practice flights on a digital twin of a patient.
Exactly.
They can crash the simulator 100 times until they find the exact right drug and the exact right dosage, all before ever giving the real human patient a single real pill.
That flight simulator analogy is spot on. It is a risk-free environment to test highly risky interventions. And this is complemented by architectures like Dr. VAE.
Dr. VAE. That sounds like a sci-fi villain.
It does, a bit.
But the sources say it's a variational autoencoder used for drug response prediction. How does that differ from GANET?
Where GANET looks at macro outcomes, Dr. VAE operates closer to the cellular level.
Okay.
Remember the autoencoder we discussed for fraud detection? Compressing data to a bottleneck and reconstructing it.
Right, the surrealist painting analogy.
Yes, a variational autoencoder does this, but it maps the data into a continuous probability distribution. Dr. VAE takes a patient's baseline cellular state, compresses it, and then applies a mathematical perturbation representing a specific drug.
It chemically pokes the digital cells.
Essentially, yes. When it decompresses the data, it outputs a highly accurate prediction of how that patient's gene expression will change when subjected to that specific molecule.
So it's predicting the actual biological chain reaction.
Precisely.
And then there is SCJN, which is used specifically in breast cancer prediction. The sources mention it offers clinicians alternative therapeutic paths.
Right, it's very specialized.
So it's not just a magic 8-ball saying, do this one thing. It's mapping out an entire decision tree of synthetic outcomes.
It acts as an augmented intelligence system for the oncologist. It provides a probabilistically ranked list of therapeutic pathways.
Visualizing the options.
Visualizing the likely outcome of surgery versus radiation versus specific chemotherapy cocktails. If you zoom out from the individual patient to the macro level of the pharmaceutical industry, the implications are staggering.
Because bringing a new drug to market historically takes a decade and billions of dollars.
It's an incredibly slow process.
Most of that time is just blindly testing compounds to see if they react with a target protein.
Right. It's finding a needle in a haystack by checking every single piece of hay.
Sounds exhausting.
AI virtual screening completely upends that. Neural networks can now analyze the molecular structure of millions of compounds and predict their bioactivity in a fraction of the time.
Just speeding everything up.
We are talking about shrinking the initial R&D discovery phase from years down to months. This massive reduction in friction means life-saving treatments can be brought to market years earlier.
At a fraction of the traditional costs, too. Okay, let's connect the dots here. We have this incredible battle-tested AI calculating financial risk at lightning speed on Wall Street.
Yep.
And we have this incredible generative AI creating digital twins to simulate our health outcomes in the clinic.
Yes.
But here is the core thesis of our discussion today. Healthcare isn't just biology. It's a massive, multi-trillion-dollar financial
The
system.
biggest in the world.
And right now, the clinical side of healthcare and the financial side of healthcare are merging into a single algorithmic entity. This brings us to the convergence. Fintech meets health tech.
This is the structural rewrite we referenced at the very beginning of our conversation.
It's finally happening.
To truly grasp why this is happening, you have to understand the massive tectonic shift occurring in the U.S. healthcare economy right now.
You just.
For decades, the entire system operated on what is called a fee-for-service model.
Let's break that down for the listener. A fee-for-service model is fundamentally volume-based. It's like taking your car to a mechanic. They get paid for every test they run, every part they replace, and every hour of labor they bill.
Right.
If you have to come back a week later because the car broke down again, they get paid again.
That is an excellent way to conceptualize it. The fee-for-service model inherently incentivizes doing more, not necessarily doing better.
That seems like a bad system for health.
It is. The financial reward is decoupled from the actual health outcome of the patient. The industry has finally recognized the unsustainability of this, and there is a massive push toward value-based care, or VBC.
And value-based care flips the incentive structure completely. It is an outcome-based model.
Exactly. In a value-based care model, healthcare providers are reimbursed based on patient health outcomes and the overall efficiency of the care delivered.
Okay.
The hospital is given a set budget to manage a population of patients. If they keep those patients healthy, proactively manage chronic conditions, and keep them out of the expensive emergency room, the hospital shares in the financial savings.
So they are financially rewarded for wellness, not
So-
illness.
Exactly.
That sounds great in theory, but managing that requires an extraordinary amount of foresight. You can't just hope a diabetic patient stays healthy.
No, you have to be incredibly proactive.
You have to actively predict when they might crash, intervene early, and manage the costs of that intervention.
And that is precisely where AI becomes the mandatory digital backbone of value-based care.
Because humans can't do that math.
Human administrators cannot monitor the longitudinal risk of 50,000 patients simultaneously.
Not a chance.
By integrating clinical utilization data, like your real-time lab results, your wearable EKG data, and your genetic markers with your administrative and financial records, AI models can predict both health outcomes and financial strain simultaneously.
Simultaneously.
Yes. The algorithm treats the patient's physical health trajectory and the hospital's financial risk exposure as interconnected variables in the exact same mathematical equation.
That's exactly the hook we started with. Let's look at the hard numbers on the return on investment for this convergence because the data is incredibly concrete.
The ROI is undeniable.
The sources highlight AI-managed, bundled payment programs. Let's say a patient goes in for a joint replacement.
Okay.
Under an AI-optimized model, the system predicts the exact optimal recovery path, reducing unnecessary readmissions. The data shows this saves an average of $1,012 per clinical episode.
That's a huge margin per patient.
And the ACO reshaping model, which is a specific Medicare innovation model, achieves savings of roughly $930 per beneficiary.
When you multiply $1,000 in savings across millions of patients nationwide,
You are looking at billions of dollars in systemic financial optimization.
and this optimization is fundamentally altering the day-to-day patient experience. Because the clinical and financial data are no longer siloed, we are seeing a massive boom in what the industry calls fintech in healthcare.
Right, the integration of financial technology directly into the patient journey. The sources talk extensively about embedded insurance. Tell me how this changes a typical doctor's visit.
Historically, if a doctor ordered an MRI, you would have to wait weeks for prior authorization.
It's the worst part of going to the doctor.
A human at the hospital faxes a human at the insurance company. They argue over the necessity, and eventually, maybe, you get approved.
So how does AI fix that?
Embedded insurance uses AI APIs to connect the clinical diagnostic tool directly to the payer's risk model.
Wait, directly.
Yes. The moment the doctor enters the diagnosis, the AI instantly verifies your benefits, analyzes the medical necessity based on millions of data points, and approves the procedure in real time.
No waiting.
It reduces administrative wait times from weeks to literally 0 seconds.
It's totally frictionless, and it's not just the patients getting a fintech upgrade. It's the hospitals themselves.
Oh, absolutely.
The sources mention invoice factoring for hospitals. Why does a multi-million-dollar hospital need invoice factoring?
Because the cash flow cycle in healthcare is notoriously slow. A hospital might perform a complex surgery today, but due to billing coding errors, insurance disputes, and patient collections, they might not see the cash for that surgery for 90 to 120 days.
But they still have payroll.
Exactly. They have to pay their nurses and buy supplies today.
So where does the AI come in?
AI models can analyze a hospital's entire pipeline of pending claims, predict with extreme accuracy exactly which claims will be paid and when, and package those predictions into a risk profile.
And then banks buy that risk.
Right. Financial institutions will then provide immediate upfront funding, which is invoice factoring, based on the AI's guarantee of future cash flow.
And on the consumer side, patients are utilizing AI-driven peer-to-peer lending and crowdfunding platforms to manage the rising out-of-pocket costs of care.
It's all becoming highly personalized finance.
The algorithms match patients with bespoke financial instruments based on their specific predictive health journey. But listening to all of this, a very uncomfortable tension starts to surface for me.
What's that?
If a hospital's AI analyzes my records and predicts I'm at high risk for a catastrophic heart failure, it's not just flagging me for a doctor so they can save my life.
Well, it is doing that.
But under the value-based care model, it is simultaneously flagging me as a massive impending financial liability to the hospital's quarterly earnings.
That is the reality, yes.
Are we using technology to humanize finance, or are we just deeply, fundamentally financializing human health?
That is the defining tension of this entire convergence. You have hit on the exact friction point that keeps regulators awake at night.
I mean, it's scary.
When an autonomous model optimizes for both your cardiac output and the hospital's profit margin simultaneously, the line between clinical care and financial risk management disappears entirely.
You become a commodity.
You are no longer just a patient. You are a complex asset with a volatile risk profile. And whenever health, wealth, and autonomous algorithms intersect to this degree, the systemic risks are astronomical.
What happens when it goes wrong?
A slight bias in the training data, a misaligned mathematical reward function, or a targeted cyber attack doesn't just mean a hedge fund loses a trade.
Right.
It could mean a demographic of patients is systematically denied care, or a regional health system faces sudden financial collapse. And this realization leads directly to the regulators stepping into the arena.
Which brings us to the dark side of the AI boom, because wherever there is a gold rush, there are snake oil salesmen selling faulty shovels.
Always.
Let's talk about AI washing. This is the deceptive practice where companies intentionally overstate their AI capabilities to attract venture capital or boost their stock price.
It's incredibly common right now.
I have to ask, is AI washing basically just the new greenwashing?
It's exactly that.
Are we seeing legacy companies slapping the letters A and I onto a basic Excel spreadsheet algorithm from 2010 just to get a valuation bump?
That is a highly accurate analogy. It is functionally identical to greenwashing. In the same way companies painted their packaging green to seem environmentally friendly, companies today know that claiming proprietary AI integration guarantees an immediate influx of capital.
So they just lie about it.
They exaggerate. They claim their systems use deep neural networks when, in reality, human workers in offshore data centers are manually processing the data.
Unbelievable.
But the regulators are not ignoring this. The U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, has initiated a major coordinated crackdown.
Good.
And interestingly, they aren't using new laws. They're using their existing anti-fraud provisions, specifically Sections 10b-5 and 10b-6 of the Securities Exchange Act.
The sources cite specific recent enforcement actions. Can you walk us through the cases against Destiny Robotics and Global Predictions, Inc.?
Certainly. Destiny Robotics and Global Predictions, Inc. were targeted precisely for making false and materially misleading claims about their AI capabilities to investors.
So they got caught AI washing.
They were essentially caught AI washing. What is crucial to understand here is the overarching regulatory philosophy of both FINRA and the SEC.
What is their philosophy?
If you look at the U.S. financial sector right now, there are no sweeping, brand-new AI-specific rulebooks on the books.
Why not? If the technology is this revolutionary, why hasn't Congress passed an AI Finance Act?
Because the SEC's stance is that the underlying nature of financial obligation hasn't changed. They're aggressively enforcing the idea that existing fiduciary duties apply to the algorithm.
So you can't blame the bot. You can't say, hey, the algorithm made a bad trade. It's not our fault.
Exactly. You cannot outsource your fiduciary duty to a neural network.
That makes sense.
If your proprietary AI model executes a reckless trade that devastates the client's portfolio, or if the algorithm is subtly biased toward recommending your firm's in-house high-fee financial products over better alternatives, the human executives in the firm are held completely legally liable.
But the threats aren't just internal incompetence or corporate exaggeration. The sources detail terrifying external cybersecurity threats, specifically what are called adversarial attacks.
These are a massive concern.
This isn't someone guessing a password. This is a fraudster mathematically manipulating the inputs to actively deceive the AI model's perception.
Adversarial attacks target the very architecture of the neural network.
Yeah. Give us an example.
Imagine an AI designed to read medical scans and detect tumors. An attacker can alter a few specific pixels in the image, changes completely invisible to the human eye, acting like a digital invisible sticker.
And the AI gets confused.
To the AI's mathematical processing layers, those altered pixels disrupt the entire calculation, causing the AI to confidently misdiagnose a malignant tumor as benign.
That is chilling.
It is.
And the same logic applies to finance, right? A fraudster could subtly alter the metadata of a transaction, so an isolation forest anomaly detector sees it as perfectly normal, allowing a massive theft to be instantly approved. And looming over all of this, the sources highlight the impending threat of quantum computing.
The quantum threat is very real.
We are approaching a horizon where quantum processors could potentially break the current cryptographic encryption standards that secure these massive AI data pipelines.
Which is precisely why the regulatory frameworks are scrambling to catch up, and why we see a stark contrast in how different sectors are responding.
How so?
Well, while financial regulators are leaning on existing fraud laws, the medical regulatory bodies are building entirely new frameworks from the ground up.
Like who?
If we look at the European Medicines Agency, the EMA, and the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, the FDA, they recently co-published a joint set of 10 guiding principles, specifically for the use of AI in medicinal product development.
10 principles is a lot to unpack. What are the core pillars they're focusing on?
The principles are deeply focused on anchoring these autonomous systems back to safety and transparency. For instance, they heavily emphasize human-centric design.
What does that mean in practice?
This isn't just a buzzword. It means the AI must be demonstrably designed to serve human health ethically, rather than just optimizing a hospital's resource allocation. They mandate risk-based performance assessment.
Meaning you have to test it in the real world.
Yes. You don't just test the AI's accuracy in a pristine, perfectly coded vacuum. You have to test how flawed, tired human clinicians actually interact with the AI's interface in a chaotic emergency room.
That's a great point.
They also mandate strict data provenance. A developer has to prove exactly where every piece of their training data came from, ensuring it isn't biased against certain demographics. And crucially, they require continuous lifecycle management.
Lifecycle management, because an AI model isn't like a scalpel. It doesn't stay the same once you manufacture it.
Exactly. You have to continuously monitor the AI in the wild to prevent a phenomenon known as data drift.
Data drift, what is that?
Data drift occurs when the real-world data the AI is analyzing begins to diverge from the historical data it was trained on.
Give me an example.
A diagnostic AI trained on patient data from 2019 might suddenly become inaccurate in 2024 because a new virus has altered baseline population health metrics.
Like COVID.
Exactly. If you aren't monitoring for drift, the AI's accuracy silently degrades over time.
But reading the sources, it seems the FDA and the EMA are taking fundamentally different paths on how to actually enforce these principles.
They are. It's a fascinating geopolitical divergence in regulatory philosophy.
Okay, break that down for us.
The FDA is taking a more flexible, dialogue-driven approach. They want developers to come to them early. They are evaluating tools on a case-by-case, iterative basis, recognizing that rigid rules might stifle life-saving innovation.
And the Europeans?
The EMA, conversely, is taking a much more rigid, structured approach, which directly aligns with the broader, overarching EU AI Act. They are classifying AI systems into distinct, predefined risk tiers.
Like high risk versus low risk.
Yes. If your AI falls into a high-risk tier, like a diagnostic tool, it is subjected to strict, non-negotiable compliance rules before it can ever touch a patient.
But here is the ultimate challenge. The wall that every regulator, whether it's an SEC auditor looking at a trading bot or an FDA inspector looking at a diagnostic tool, is going to crash into.
The black box problem.
Yes. How do firms and regulators deal with the fundamental black box nature of deep learning? Regulators are legally demanding explainable AI, or XAI. They want to know why the AI made a decision.
They want the math to be legible.
Right. But earlier, you explained that deep reinforcement learning teaches itself through millions of trial and error simulations, creating strategies so complex humans can't reverse engineer them. How do you explain a neural network's intuition to a government auditor?
That is the multi-trillion-dollar regulatory paradox. Explainable AI, or XAI, is currently the most heavily funded active field of research in computer science.
They are just trying to open the box.
They are trying to force these black box models to show their mathematical work. The industry is relying on post hoc explanation techniques with acronyms like LIME and reshape.
Let's break those down. What is LIME doing?
LIME stands for Local Interpretable Model Agnostic Explanations. Imagine an AI denies a patient coverage for a specific treatment.
Okay.
The auditor asks why. LIME works by taking that specific patient's profile and subtly perturbing the inputs. It creates 1,000 slight variations of the patient, maybe changing the age slightly or removing one lab result, and feeds them back into the black box.
Okay, and then what?
By observing how the AI's output changes based on those micro adjustments, LIME can confidently estimate which specific variables the AI weighed most heavily in its decision to deny coverage. SHAP is something mathematically similar, assigning a specific importance value to every single data point.
So we have tools to peek inside the black box. Problem solved, right?
Unfortunately, no.
Why not?
Because there is a brutal fundamental mathematical trade-off at the core of machine learning. Almost universally, the most accurate, powerful, high-performing models, like deep neural networks, are the least explainable.
And the simple ones.
Conversely, the most easily explainable models, like a simple linear regression or a basic decision tree, are the least accurate for complex tasks.
Yeah.
Regulators, executives, and physicians are currently being forced to choose between optimal performance and optimal transparency.
And that choice has massive ethical and legal implications. If a deeply complex black box AI can predict market crashes or terminal illnesses with 99.9% accuracy, but it is mathematically impossible to explain exactly how it knows.
Do we legally allow it to be used?
Right. Do we prioritize human understanding, or do we prioritize the mathematically superior outcome?
That is the dilemma we are currently navigating.
Wow. Okay, let's try to synthesize everything we have covered today. What we've uncovered is that the AI takeover isn't just about software companies building faster chatbots.
Not at all.
It is a fundamental, structural rewrite of society's most vital infrastructures. We were looking at a near future where financial solvency and biological longevity are inextricably linked together by the same predictive models, analyzing the same synthetic data.
The silos are gone.
The silos between the hospital and the hedge fund are gone. Value-based care in the clinic and algorithmic risk management on Wall Street are running on the exact same underlying mathematical logic.
And as we navigate this profound structural convergence, I want to leave you with a final thought to consider.
Let's hear it.
As our physical health and our financial solvency become entirely reliant on the interconnected, hyper-rational, frictionless logic of autonomous neural networks, we have to ask ourselves a difficult question.
Which is?
In a decade, when these systems are operating at a scale and speed completely beyond human comprehension, will human intuition still have a place in these critical decisions? Or will human intervention, a doctor trusting their gut or a trader defying the algorithm, simply be viewed by the system as an error?
That is a heavy but incredibly necessary reality to sit with as we watch that clinical X-ray machine and that financial stock ticker merge into one single interface. Thank you for joining us on this journey today. We appreciate you taking the time to explore the mechanics of this convergence with us. Until next time.